Hey everyone, welcome to another Manufacturing Live. This is a really cool one because we're recapping the amazing things we saw last week at IMTS, but I'm also not alone. We're actually bringing in Chris MacBain. Before you start, Chris, I do want to say if you haven't heard of Chris before, then you missed a previous episode where he was out in the real world. Now he's part of the Dassault team and he works with me on manufacturing. So Chris, welcome to the community. Hey everyone, welcome.
I am so excited to be part of this team. I've been with Solidworks for years, and to be brought on to this team is just amazing. I'm also not alone. And to spend IMTS with people like you and the other team it was incredible. It was just really great.
Yeah, and before I forget, we have to pay the man, as they say. Did you know, Chris, that this Thursday at 11 a.m. we're doing a What's New for SolidWorks Live? So anyone that's looking at What's New in SolidWorks 2023 is able to tune into that. Did you know that we have that stuff going on coming up this week?
I did not. So I'm definitely going to tune in for sure.
Well, it gets even better. This Friday at 12, we're talking about 3D CAD, photo rendering, and additive. And you were a former additive guy, so
I am.
There'll be some tips and tricks on that as well.
So I'll absolutely be there.
Yeah. Hey, it's all about adding and adding and adding, right? That's what we want to do. We just want to make the world a better place by adding. So before we go to the additive side, let's talk about all the cool stuff we have. Now, we're going to break this episode up just a little bit. We're actually going to show some clips, some things that you've recorded, some pieces that you captured, because while some of us were stuck a little bit in the booth talking to all the customers, you got a little bit of a free reign to go out and interview people and have a discussion, right? And one of the people that was part of your group was Barb. And Barb is on our team. She's one of the, how do I say it, PC versus our internal manufacturing speak. She's one of the amazing people that helps us with manufacturing content and understand the market a little bit better from Industry 4.0. So with that, we're going to start with an intro from Barb with you helping Chris, and then we're going to jump into a quick overview of Factory Sim, and then you and I will be right back.
Hi, and welcome to IMTS 2022. We're back in Chicago after 4 long years. So excited to be face-to-face with people again. We've got people from Solidworks, Delmia. We're going to see the latest in 3D Experience Works machining solutions. So what do you say we go in there and see what we can find out? Hi again, we're still here at the SolidWorks booth at IMTS, and we're talking today about digital transformation. We are seeing that all over this event today. You know, the manufacturing industry, we're trying to do more with less people, and it's all about automation, it's all about technology. So we're here today to talk with Vivian. We're going to talk about virtual factory simulation, and why is that so important?
Okay, so if you think about it, right?
Yep.
There are scenarios when at the shop floor you are encountering a lot of changes that you need to do, and before you even move equipment around, you don't want to spend that money to move those things around.
Very expensive to move giant pieces of machinery around, right? Yeah.
So in this scenario, we're able to create what-if scenarios to simulate and see how is it going to impact what is already going on the shop floor. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Yeah. And this is a defibrillator assembly line.
Okay.
And currently, it's running perfect, just like any manufacturing facility out there.
Oh yeah, they always run perfectly. We know that about manufacturing, right? It's the wild, wild west, so we know that's not the case.
Yes. So right here, it's going to show it's running seamlessly. Everything is going pretty smooth, right? But recently there's been a change of the requirements.
Okay. Which happens, especially in the medical industry.
Exactly. And since this equipment deals with human lives, right? They created a new requirement that requires them to perform a testing on each and every one of this equipment. Okay. So right now we are going to add that new step of testing this defibrillator, and we are going to do it on the 5th station. Okay. So 5th station, new testing requirement, and in a second you'll see how it is defined and the time you require, the name, whether this testing is going to be 100%. successful or if there's a failure rate, you can define that as well.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So if it fails, where is it going to go? Is it going to go through a rework or is it going into the trash bin?
Okay.
So you can define that in this software,
Oh,
right?
wow.
In factory flow simulation.
Okay.
Okay. So right now, we have added the new testing requirement. So let's see how is it going to impact the assembly line.
Okay.
Okay. So you'll see stations 1 through 4 running perfectly fine because there were no changes there.
Okay.
But once we hit to station 5, we are going to be able to see the bottleneck it's going to create.
Okay.
Okay. Now, one thing people would say is, dang, if you add 60 seconds or 120 seconds to a line that is perfect, it's going to show very clearly on a 2D piece of paper that it's going to create a bottleneck. But it is an advantage to many companies when they're able to see it in 3D and simulate it, and before they even make any changes on the shop floor, they find a solution which will not cost them even more money if they make a mistake.
Now, do these all have to be 3D parts?
Good question. So this works with 3D parts from any 3D modeling software.
Oh, so
right?
I could be a Creo user
Exactly.
or an Autodesk user? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And also, this is able to consume point clouds.
Okay.
So imagine going to a facility, you want to scan the actual locations of equipment, the floor and things like that. What we typically do is we would have someone go in and do a point cloud scan of the facility,
Okay.
and then we import those 3D models to make sure, first of all, that they are at the correct positions, and then we start our simulation setup there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So they've obviously detected the issue here.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Vivian.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Chris, so we just saw the video. Explain to me your thoughts about factory flow and simulation. Like, what was your impression of IMTS and everything you saw and what we just saw there?
Well, first off, for those of you that don't know, the theme of IMTS was digital twin, right? Kind of
virtual twin. Virtual twin.
Virtual twin.
Sorry,
virtual twin.
You and I are going to have a talk about this here in a little bit. Digital versus virtual. So.
Twins. It was about twins.
Yes.
So, to bring that theme down to where Vivian talks about being able to adjust your workflow in your manufacturing facility is incredible. We've all wanted that. Can we hire another guy? Is it going to make a difference, right?
Yep.
Is getting rid of that guy really going to make it, or girl, that person really going to make a difference? Here is, you can just lay it out and you can see right away how to streamline your factory.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting about it too is a lot of times, especially when I was in school, when you talked about doing time stays and everything else, it was like becoming a wizard at Excel spreadsheet. And it was, I put it very much similar to, when you did board drafting, you did 2D AutoCAD. In your head, you had to envision what the 3D model was, right? And you were working backwards. When you use an Excel spreadsheet and you use some of those components, you're envisioning in your head what that workflow is. But how do you communicate that to upper management? How do you sell those ideas to someone else? It becomes a real big challenge, right? Because not everybody can see 3D from words and texts and 2D lines and arcs. And to me, that's been the biggest thing that I've seen is I can now go to a manager who gets 1,000 Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoints in a day. And now I can just show them a video and be like, hey, this is what we're talking about doing. And this is why it's important.
Right. And isn't that the power that we have now, right? Is visualization, is communication. Like you said, with a 2D drawing, if you went to management back then, now we're old, so we remember that, like saying, okay, here's our 2D drawing, imagine if you will. And now all the way down to your employees walking across the shop floor, like the visualization is incredible.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to circling back, digital twin versus virtual twin. There's a lot of people saying, oh yeah, digital and virtual are the same, but they're not. Having a CAD model of something does not make it virtual. That makes it digital, right? So if I drop in a CNC machine and I look at the CAD model and I see the simulation running, yeah, that's a digital twin. But when we're talking virtual, it's sort of what Vivian was showing to Barb there, which is the humans walking. We're able to determine how many miles a forklift is going to travel in a day, what its load capacity is. That is the virtualization. You don't draw a CAD model of a forklift to see how far it travels in a day. Like that's not the point, right?
Yeah.
It is interesting at IMTS. There were a few companies looking at it to what the theme was, which was virtual twin. And then there was a lot of people talking about digital twin and confusing the two terms.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And I think I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's really big with robotics too.
Yes.
Having a digital twin versus a virtual twin. Because as we all know, we can model anything we want on our computer, right? We can make it look beautiful.
Yeah.
But when we get out there, what's going to happen? Now, I think to me, that's really the differentiator between digital and virtual, right? Digital twin, it looks great on your screen. Let's see how it's going to work outside. With a virtual twin, let's see how it's going to be on the screen because it's going to be exactly the way it is outside.
Yes. Yeah. And I know everything that's overhead. I know the piping. I know the routing. I know all that
Absolutely.
stuff. Right? It's not designed in a vacuum. And I think most people can attest to how I design it in my computer versus how it works in the real world are often two different things because we have this wild thing called humans that get involved. And it was interesting last week when we talked about this stuff, how everyone agrees that the two fundamental principles that you and I have been talking about for a long time now, humans are horrible at communicating.
Yes.
And then because we can't communicate well, we create more complexity. And the further we get away from being able to visualize something, the more complexity and the worse we are at talking about it. And I think that some of the virtual stuff, like we saw with Vivian and Barb, really simplify that down because now we're all pointing to the same thing and saying, okay, how do I make this specific thing, whatever it is, better?
Right. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Yep.
So speaking of making things better, we're going to look at our next video that you and Barb helped with, and that is talking about 3D Lean with one of our peers, Sing. So let's go ahead and watch that, and then you and I will be right back.
Sing was awesome.
Back at IMTS 2022, and we're in the Dassault Systems booth, and today we are talking about Lean Team Player. We all have heard about Lean methodology in manufacturing, so we are now bringing it to the masses. So I've got Sing here. He's going to explain what the benefits are of Lean Team Player and how it can keep the Wild Wild West tamed.
Hi guys, I'm Sing here, and I'm going to talk about how Lean is important to us and how we transform the basic old processes of Lean into the modern new ones, which are digital. So, yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's see what happens here. Go ahead.
So, what you're seeing on screen is a traditional Lean board. So, having a stand-up meeting in the office generally involves a lot of sticky notes, involves like a stupid, silly whiteboard that has a lot of text that you rub off at the end of the day. Now what we're proposing to do here is we're going to take all of this information digital. It's super easy to do, and once we do that, it's going to look a lot like this. Now that's the same flowchart that you saw is now digital. Now it retains information for you to go back to in the future. The meetings are shorter and more precise. You can add on functions and features that talk about who's there, who's present, and what their roles are. So there's proper allocation of work, and all of this is done within seconds.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time, Sing.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we just watched that with Sing and we watched it with Barb. Before we jump into this, Chris, though, I do want to remind everyone this is a live episode. You have questions, we have answers, and if I don't have if I don't have the answer, Chris has the answer. So we got this covered. We're gonna handle this. But let's talk a little bit about what we saw with Sing and Barb for what 3D Lean is and how it can benefit people. Like, what's the value of what we just saw?
It's incredible, right? I mean, how many times have we been in a pre-production meeting and the whiteboard is just full of 3 different colors, of scribbles, of squares with arrows, importance, and all these things, and then at the end somebody takes a picture of it, and it's never to be seen again, right?
Yeah.
And here, Sing's talking about the ability to link all of these Post-its, all of the notes, everything, all the way back to the part, to the project, things like that. So this isn't just, again, you talk about doing things in a vacuum. This isn't an informational meeting or an informational board that's in a vacuum. It's something that's constantly updating. And to me, that is an incredibly valuable thing for this platform. Like you said, communication.
Well, and I think what gets missed a lot too is I was actually talking to a person this morning, and they were out visiting a customer, and it was a customer like 2 years ago. We're in a garage, and now they have like a 60,000 square foot facility, and they were walking through a tour of the plant, and they were explaining, you know, how happy and proud they were of the plant, and they walked by a shift change meeting, and there was a whiteboard, and everyone was huddled around the whiteboard. You know, and you and I have both been there, but I think the key is there's a couple things that have changed in the world in the last few years. We're not going to beat that horse. We've already went through that enough in all the previous episodes, but people work differently than they did 3 years ago. But yet we're still applying 50 and 60-year-old methodology to working in a new environment with different pressures and different outcomes. And I think tools like this, people just don't realize that, one, they exist, and number two, that you don't have to do it the old way to be successful.
You know, I think that's a really good point. And just a little bit, just 2 minutes on a tangent here is, you know, we're machinists, man. We don't like new things. They scare us, right? Because we know that this set of buttons will result in this, right? That's how we do it. Our jobs are safe if we do it the same way every time. So in general, it's a little bit more difficult for us to change, right?
Yep.
But I think it's important, you know, and people say, well, the way I do it works fine. Well, you know what? Drawing it on a drawing board works fine too, but we're past that. You know, we have to move forward. And it's exciting for me at IMTS to see the enthusiasm of all the machinists saying, let's get on the cloud, let's get these robots, let's get this technology, because they're seeing it as an opportunity. And it's really exciting.
So, interesting stat. Did you know the average age of a machinist in the US is 49 years old?
Jesus, really?
I found that out at IMTS. Yeah. Yeah.
No wonder why we're all old and crabby, huh?
Yeah. So let's think about that from, we have to build more product, faster, better, cheaper, competing with everyone on the planet. And we have a bunch of people that have been doing this for 25 years. And we're trying to accomplish the same method that got us here 25 years ago when everyone was riding around listening to Def Leppard and their IROCs. You know, the world's a little bit different today. But not to bag on myself, because don't let the short hair fool you. It could grow long once upon a time. But the point here is the next generation of people that we're all complaining doesn't want to work. We have to adopt new technology because they grew up in a different world. You know, and it was interesting. We'll get back to the video here in a little bit, but you and I were talking about this before the meeting. Like, there was a group of people that came up to the booth, and it was a bunch of that group that we were talking about age-wise. You know, I would guesstimate them to be in that group, and they were there to learn new stuff. And there was a young person there with them that was already in his 20s adopting the old, crusty, you can't do it any other way methodology. And that's the impression we leave on the incoming people that do want to work in this field, is there's only one way to do it. We're not going to think about anything different. And so when I see things like what Singh is talking about, for one, that dude has some excitement, and I love his passion for what he talks about.
Heck yeah, man.
But number two, it's a different way to solve the same problem without the picture you talked about that goes into nowhere. Like, everyone can see this and refer to it, because the next generation is going to do things completely different than what we are. And if we block that, we're just going to seal our own fate, you know? So,
you know, everybody, just really quick, you know, as we're talking to people, you know, throw in the comments, you know, if you have an idea about this, you know, are we on base? I mean, do you, as a machinist or an engineer, I mean, do you see around you that there's a better adoption of this technology, or do you see that, you know, the older guys are really pushing back? We'd really love to know, for sure.
Well, and more importantly, if you're a young person getting into this space, what do you want to see?
Yeah, that's even better. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if I was going to be get into the business of manufacturing, whatever type that is, additive, subtractive, wire, it doesn't really matter. You know, what is it that you think is needed to make the world a better place? And not like the world a better place in, like, you know, going to
world peace and all that stuff.
Yeah. We're not
machining
doing,
world.
Yeah, we're not doing hands across America for any of you older people. But like, if I'm getting into manufacturing, what do you want to see?
Yeah. What can we do for you, man?
Yeah. So with that, we're now going to jump to another young, enthusiastic person that's part of our team. We're going to look at an extension for virtual twin and robot programming with Barb and Mariah. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll be right back.
Here to talk about robotics. We know that's one of the ways that we can mitigate some of these challenges. So, Mariah, can you tell me what we're looking at here today?
Here I have, we actually did a factory scan of MetalQuest. And MetalQuest is a manufacturer up in Nebraska, and they wanted to put their robotics in a live cell, but they didn't want to pay someone to actually model everything. So we went through, we scanned the data, and then we just dropped the Solidworks model in there, replaced the robots with some with kinematics, and then you're able to actually upload and download robot programs. So you have that two-way street there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this amazing point cloud data? I mean, I have seen virtual twins of a plane before and a car, but I certainly have never seen anything like this before. Can you tell me a little bit more about what went into creating this amazing virtual twin?
So it's actually really simple. You hire a company, or you can buy a scanner yourself, and they walk through the factory, and then you can just import it into the 3D Experience platform. And what that allows you to do is really quickly create your virtual twin of your factory without having to create all of your models. So you save on time, you model what you need. So for example, the robots, and you just leave what you don't need there.
So explain to me what is involved in actually programming the robotic cell. How was this done prior? I would imagine this has always been done virtually, or was this something I assume that manually used to have to be done?
So you used to have to manually do it on a teach pendant, and that means you're sitting on the shop floor, the robots have their downtime, you've taken them out of production, and you have to step through it step by step. So you create your program, then you run it really slow, and then you start running it faster and faster just to make sure, you don't create any flashes.
Okay.
Because robots are expensive, your parts are expensive. And then robot manufacturers actually have a lot of their own simulation software. So then you are able to create it in their software. But the problem with that is you can only use one robot manufacturer. And here on the platform, we're actually able to use, we're manufacturer neutral. So any robot manufacturer, you can just create the kinematics. We have translators for most of the major brands. And so now you can create all of your robot programs for all of your robot different names, right? Okay. In one spot. So you don't have to have a specialized Fanuc person or a specialized KUKA person.
Okay.
You just have to have a robot specialist.
Okay, so this is really helping then with not having enough people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it cuts down on the number of people, and you can also do it virtually, and you have all of your CAD data, so you can check for your collisions, you can make sure everything works before you're trying to create your robot program.
Okay, that is very cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Mariah.
Right.
I really appreciate the time.
Okay, so robotics. We got to back up just a second, Chris. I said Def Leppard. I should say Guns N' Roses because that's the new Thor: Love and Thunder movie. We got to throw in some of that.
That's
we got to
fair.
be fair. We got to be fair to both sides of the fence here. But let's talk robotics. And what Mariah showed was robotic programming with the virtual twin, which is an extension of what Vivian was talking about. So explain to me your thoughts when you saw that the first time, especially as a new person coming inside DS and getting to see all that. Explain your impression, what value you think.
I'm going to try and do this succinctly because there's so much to this. I started my apprenticeship in '93. There was no, I was the robot, right? I was the one that stood there and took stuff off the machine and put it on. And to see where we are now is it's ridiculous, right? That's first of all, as an old guy, it's crazy. Yeah. Talking to Mariah, go ahead.
So you did the torque based off the pop in your elbow when you?
Oh, absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, talking with Mariah about it, her knowledge is so incredible, not only on robotics, but on manufacturing and robotics. I learned the difference between robots and cobots. I've learned, just how easy it is to work robots into your routine. At IMTS, so many manufacturing companies, so many machine tool companies just had cells set up on the floor. I mean, that's how easy it is. Hey, let's bring in a robot, let's program it, set it up, and let's go. The ease of it was really what I learned the most. It was incredible. And, I know this sounds like a sales pitch, but it's true. I don't know why every shop doesn't have one, at least to pour their coffee. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about that is the first time they talked about what we were able to do, right? I'm like, Yeah. Okay, whatever. No, but everybody's selling something, right?
Right.
And because I remember back in 2002, it was about 2002. There's a company over in Eastern Iowa, Genesis Systems. They may have changed their name now, but their whole specialty way back then, and the reason they bought Solidworks in the early days was they would just design out the robotic welding cell. And so you just got a turnkey thing. A company would buy it. They didn't program it. They didn't do anything with it. It was like, there's just this provider. There was never a thought of you doing it on your own. Fast forward to today, and like I just saw a deal last night. One of the colleges is doing like, come in and we'll show you how to set up a cobot for robotic welding. And I'm like, we've stepped incrementally forward, but we're not taking that big leap, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because robotics is industry 3.0. It's not industry 4.0. It's just here we try to lump them together because, again, the discussion's weird, right? And we as humans suck at communicating. But we did get some questions that come in here, Chris. So you and I are going to tackle these. So
let's go.
The first one is from, the near and dear to my heart, the college I went to. Does the robotic simulation software have the ability to optimize the process based off your initial program?
Are you asking me, or are you going to take it? Yeah, you take it. You read it. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. I mean, you're the expert in the room. I'm just here talking.
Okay, I'll do it. So we do have the ability to optimize. And really, if we go back to Vivian's video, the time travel, things like that, we are definitely able to optimize the process of the robot, getting rid of extraneous moves, optimizing trajectories of the move, making sure that they're pointed in the right direction, coming from the same place, and just running time, doing time tests on it. And it's great.
Yeah. And
so
we have some higher end stuff too, where we can actually go through and optimize. Our base rules are more of, how do we get started, right? Like, how do I drive a stick shift versus how do I drive an 18-wheeler with a, 18-speed manual transmission? We're first stuff we're talking about is more of the baby steps. Let's get you in the vehicle, understand the speed, get you going, upload programs, download programs, do that point and click. And then down the road, you want to paint automobiles, you want to sandblast cars, you want to optimize your paths from point A to point B. We have all that stuff. It's just a matter of, where do you start?
Absolutely. And you told a quick story, and I'll just tell us really quick about automation. I was at Pelican Case, and they use robots, these humongous molds that are about as big as a room for these big cases. And they have robots that go in and demold it. They bring it over on a hot knife, deburr it. They set it down on a conveyor belt, and that's it. Like, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. So the next question here, they're asking the difference between cobots and robots. Okay, first of all, cobots are not robots that live together and share a space. They may live together. I mean, I don't judge. They're robots.
Three's Company.
That's right.
We're going to pull out all the 80s references today.
All the 80s stuff.
You mentioned time travel. Quantum Leap is back out. I mean, we're back at the beginning. So
it really is. It's funny how slick it is. So cobots are robots that are made to operate around people, right? They have resistance switches on them. They have safeties in them and things like that. Pure robots, they don't care, man. They will run you over and kill you, right? So that's the difference. So a robot, a CNC machine may be considered a robot because it doesn't have those safety measures. Well, I guess they have the doors and stuff, but if you're in there and it's moving, it's not going to stop.
Yeah. It'll still take your fingers, and you can be known as, three-finger Johnny for the rest of your life. Right. I mean, cobots are your friendly neighborhood use case. They actually have feelings. They care about you. Robots just want to get a job done.
Yeah, they really don't care.
Yeah. I mean, there was some cool stuff we saw at IMTS, though. Mariah actually showed me this video. They have this halo cell now they put on the end effector, and it has a digital imprint. So if you walk into where the industrial robot's at, it picks you up from the scan and will pause. Like, it had this gridded thing. It was pretty cool. But the robot itself doesn't care. It's just that sensor that cares. So,
Let's hope that sensor doesn't give out, huh?
Yeah. So let's see. Okay, let's jump to the next one, and this is one you and I have talked about for a long time too. Our friends at Metal Quest, we've showcased a little bit of their stuff today. Barb's actually gonna interview Ashley from Metal Quest because they're doing some really cool things with women in manufacturing there. So let's go ahead and watch the video, and then you and I will catch up on that.
We are here to talk about women in manufacturing, or perhaps more accurately, the lack of women in manufacturing. So, Ashley, I happen to know that at MetalQuest, you have almost a third of your workers are women. That's extremely unusual. You guys obviously are statistically have a much higher rate of women employees. I assume that's intentional somewhat. You live, I mean, both your facilities are in place with pretty tight labor markets. What is it you do as an organization to encourage more women in manufacturing?
So first of all, absolutely that's important. I mean, if you're not recruiting women, you're missing out on half the workforce that's available for the taking, and an excellent group of the workforce as well. As far as recruiting women in manufacturing, as a whole, we try to be very forward-thinking. We don't do the dirty, dingy shop stereotype. That is not us at all. We want to show that manufacturing can be clean, awesome, I mean, cool technology, great environment to work in, great people, smart people.
It's not grease monkeys anymore.
No, this is, I mean, this is the real deal, and you can have a lifelong career and be completely fulfilled. And unfortunately, that's just not oftentimes people's perception. So we just have tried to break that mold for years. We use the technology we have to do that. We use the way we treat our employees to do that. The facility we have established for them and maintained for them. So we've always been very selective in the way we hire, in that if we have a jerk come in for an interview, we're not going to hire them, no matter how smart they are, how good at their job they could be, because they're going to bring down the entire team. So we work very hard to make sure that they are a culture fit first and foremost. Otherwise, they'll be a detriment to the entire team.
What would you say to a younger girl about manufacturing as a potential career, and why? What would be a reason why you would say that you would encourage women to follow the same path you did?
Take the leap. There's no reason at this point not to, and I think because of the stereotype that exists around manufacturing, a lot of women feel like they don't have a place there, but there's no reason for that, and that needs to change now, and the sooner that we can get more women involved, that stereotype will begin to disappear. So join manufacturing, become a part of the industry. You can make a huge impact and help other young women feel welcome.
Let's talk about like the career path in manufacturing. You know, this isn't a matter of standing on a shop floor and pressing a lever and getting dirty, right? It's like, it's not about that, it's about technology now. Talk a little bit about the various career paths that you could take once you got into manufacturing as a woman.
There's so many different careers within manufacturing that I think oftentimes get overlooked because people think, oh, it's a dirty, dingy shop. People are pushing buttons all day, and that's so not the case. You've got your logistics, programming, robotics, marketing, like myself. So many different career opportunities that are available.
Okay, so let's talk MetalQuest, and let's talk a little bit about women in manufacturing. So there's some interesting things there, and I think, you know, we've talked about this a lot in Manufacturing Live, but it's interesting because we feel like we've talked about it a lot, but then you go talk to all these different companies and it's like a brand new discussion, right? So let's talk about the fact that MetalQuest has almost 30% of their employees are women right now in manufacturing. So what's your impression of that? You know, you've been around the MetalQuest group, and what do you think is their key to that, right?
You know what, it's honestly, it's forward thinking. You know, when I first started seeing those MetalQuest videos that we were producing, I was thinking, wow, this shop is incredible. Like, it's got to be like the highest end shop with all this money to blow and all stuff, but it's not, right? It's all it is. It's an average shop. No, I shouldn't say average. It's above average, obviously, but it's above average shop. That's forward thinking, right? They're thinking about what's best for the business, not only when it comes to software investment or hardware investment, but people investment, right?
Yep.
And I'm just gonna be a little serious here for a second and say that, you know, so many women in manufacturing get looked over because bosses say, I don't want that distraction in my shop, or, you know, she's going to be whatever the case may be. We all have been there, right? And anybody listening to this, you really need to realize some of the most impressive machinists and things that I've worked with were women that were given the chance to do this. And it's sad that we have to say given the chance, right?
Yeah. It's like, it's really hard for me to keep my manufacturing,
right,
background calm and not start cursing and get really emotional. But the point of this is like, for one, it's 50% of the available workforce. Like, why would you ever start a business and be like, I'm going to cut off half of the people that could ever help me? The second thing is if you're building products that go to a consumer, women are half of the people that are consumers, actually more than that. So why would you not want input if you're really trying to make the best product out there, the best thing to change the world in whatever sector you're in? Why would you cut half of it away?
You're absolutely right.
Dumbest thing on the planet. If you went to a venture capitalist and was like, yeah, I'm going to build the next widget, but it's only for X, they would be like, why would I give you money for that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's stupid that you build products with half of the workforce, with half of the people looking at it from a perspective, and then you expect other people just to get it. Like, it makes me so angry. And the other thing that comes into it too is dudes have egos and they do the dumbest things. Like, geez. Like, I mean, we took some people into MetalQuest and I was at a dinner one night afterwards and they're like, oh, their stuff is they don't do anything that other X company wouldn't do. And I'm like, you didn't get it. It's not about the hardware that sits in their facilities. It's not about the equipment they bought. It's about the process and the way they look at it through a lens that's more unique than everyone else. And a big reason for that is because they are more diverse than the average shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the dumbest arguments I've ever seen. And like,
I would like to take just a second and talk about the egos that we have, because we do, man. I mean, everybody on this phone, anybody who makes parts right now that is hearing me makes the best parts in the world, right? We're awesome. We're machinists, man. We are that voodoo magic that puts it all together, man. Engineers can make cartoons, but we make the stuff, right?
Yep.
Why would we be intimidated or scared of somebody coming into the shop and doing it better than I can, right?
Yep.
I'm old. That's how I learned. That's how I got here, was not being the best in the shop, hands down. Yep. I learned by better people coming in. Man, woman, it doesn't make a difference, So I learned probably about too late in my career, about halfway through my career, that it doesn't matter where the information comes from, because you're going to use it and you're going to look like a rock star.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a student of life, you welcome all influence, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only when your ego gets in the way that everybody has hurt feelings, and that holds everyone else back. And it's just, you can't make stuff faster, better, cheaper, or just have a better quality of life if you surround yourself by the same people that blab about the same things.
And and I almost said the B word. I don't know if I can swear on this, but complain about the same things over and over again is crazy, right?
Yeah.
At least get somebody in there to complain about different things,
Yeah. I mean, let's complain about the fact that we're all living in squalor and we should have a cleaner facility. I mean,
that's right. Exactly. Let's complain about that, right?
Yeah.
So just real quick in the comments, someone actually told a really great story about working with a 65-year-old woman who's a Solidworks operator and is fantastic at Solidworks, right?
Yes.
That should be the rule, not the exception. That's all I'm saying, man. That should be, that's it.
Yeah. There should be a million of those that we talk about, and we have some things at the end of this. We're going to talk about 3D Experience World coming up, and some of the things we're doing for that. We're going to circle back to this, so don't let me forget when I get all wound up about the next topic. So
no problem.
Just keep me in check there, Chris.
You got it.
So the next couple interviews we have, we're going to play the first one, then we'll come back. We actually had an opportunity to sit down with Megan. If you don't follow Megan and Maven's Manufacturing, you are missing out. Every Friday she does interviews. She is one of the best people out there to get perspectives and insights. She's just a cool human in general. So she was actually part of the Creators Lounge at IMTS, interviewing people all week long, and it's on IMTS Plus on YouTube. We borrowed a few of those because she interviewed me about this, manufacturing live, why we're doing what we're doing. So let's go ahead and we'll jump to the first one where she is asking me why we're doing these things and what IMTS is and our thoughts on it. So let's jump to that and we'll come right back.
What are some of the things that you've been seeing here at this show, and what is one of the major challenges people are coming to you asking you about at your booth?
The big thing that we see here is, or what I've seen is, someone made the comment to me like, well, the tools are about the same as they were 4 years ago. And it's like, the tools are about the same, but the technology that they're leveraging to make them more efficient is night and day difference from 4 years ago. And so I think there's a little bit of loss on, I look at the machine and it looks like the same, but they're missing that all the processes are coming in place. As far as what we're seeing in our booth, we have lots of people that are coming in and they're like, look, I want to reorganize my factory. I want to add offline programming. I don't have enough people, right? Like, you're landlocked by whoever's going to drive to your facility. And so a lot of the things that we're having discussions on is really this, how do I use software to enhance the investment that I've already had? It's confusing, right? Because again, it comes into, some people sell point solutions, some people are talking bigger picture. And so there's a lot of confusion that goes on. And we're just really trying to explain, hey, the whole point of Industry 4.0, at the end of the day, regardless of any product that anyone's selling, is having your data stored in one place for everyone to access when they need it. Not importing, exporting, copy, paste, put it in 6 drives. That's really Industry 4.0.
Okay.
And so you take all the tools that are out here, how do we connect that? How do we make it easy?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's way too much data.
So as we look back at IMTS, I think one of the things, and I sort of pointed it out when we were getting interviewed there on that last Friday, is a lot of the machines and components are the same, but the technology and process is different. When you walked around and saw all that stuff and you were filming, did you notice the same thing? Because that's what I noticed, is the machines have sort of not leveled out, but they've slowed their pace and advancement, but now it's all of the supporting technology to increase that process.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, 4 years ago at IMTS, I saw a lot of machine advancements as far as hybrid machines. When I say hybrid machines, I mean 3D printing and subtractive. This year, it really wasn't that dominant. I mean, there's still the machine tool dealers are still working on it, but you're right. This year was all about Industry 4.0. It was all about the digitalization. You and I were talking about this at IMTS, that ultra high speed tool path, not the trochoidal, right? In my opinion, like, that was the last real big advancement in machining. I mean, end mills are end mills. They're going to be end mills. Sure, you can get a little bit more life out of them, this and that. So really, what is the next horizon, right? What is that next horizon for manufacturing? And I saw it at IMTS, and it's definitely information.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you see some of these, you see some of the vendors, like they had a really cool fractal vise that was there. Yeah. That one piqued my attention. It was super expensive, but like, that's the next thing, right? Like, how can I run more parts and maintain the same process? Well, fractal vices are pretty awesome for that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Google, search fractal vice, and you will find what we're talking about. But like, the ways that we work hold, that's a process. The way that we deliver and consume, software to the machines, I don't want to pick on some of that, but that's where we get into a little bit of point solution versus, platform solutions, which is a whole nother discussion. But you see a lot of machine tool dealers now, and a lot of robotics dealers are like, oh, we have the software and it runs all of this, and they're trying to solve it. And they do a really good job of what they do, but the key is then you always have to buy from that company. Right. They're closing down the ecosystem, which isn't always bad, but if you have a 60-week lead time on a brand new robot, you can't really afford for your company to have to wait to be locked in because there's a software that only works with X. And so I think we're trying to solve it from a process and from a software, but we haven't quite got to the Star Trek world where everyone lives in harmony together. But to me, that was the big thing. Like you said, a machine is a machine, a pocket is a pocket, a toolpath is a toolpath. How we get there and process the data before the machine gets turned on is really what the change was, or at least what I noticed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Maybe that's because we're in software, but that was the big thing that I saw. So we're going to jump to the next one. And the next one is, we talk a little bit about manufacturing live. We talk a little bit about education. And that kicks off a few more conversations, but let's jump into manufacturing live and education, and then we'll follow up.
In terms of your manufacturing live broadcast, how has that helped with the brand narrative for, not just the Solidworks platform, but also Dassault systems?
So I think that most of the comments we get, right, are, hey, I'm an engineer, I went to school for this, I don't really know how to manufacture, right?
Right.
I learned how to do this. You guys are talking about things that help fill in the gaps. Like, I now understand, like, I know the SolidWorks piece, I know the CAD piece. You guys are now talking about downstream use and how that makes sense. And I think we're really just sort of helping bridge the gap between the two departments, where traditionally, even for us, we were known as the CAD group, right? Mechanical engineers doing mechanical engineering things. So we're helping the people that go to school on the engineering side understand that it is important to design for manufacturability.
Okay. So have you gone to any like high schools or elementary schools, or even like, you know, the level at the technical colleges or even university level? Have you gone to any of them and seen like one major challenge that they're experiencing in terms of trying to teach 3D CAD?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I am a tech school guy. Okay. I went to SCC Milford. I'm a 2-year degree manufacturing engineer. They're always near and dear to my heart, right? So I try to stop by and work with those groups as much. I did actually work in education for a little while with the SolidWorks side. So
because I would feel like that's really hard.
It is. It is a completely different world than doing the commercial side, and everyone in education doesn't get enough credit for how hard that is.
Oh, right.
But I will say that the biggest thing that I've seen, and I think this is a common theme across anything, not just what we're talking about here at IMTS, is these kids are learning a process. You know, whether it be CAD, just draw a sketch, do a block, or whether it's math or reading a ruler, they're just put in the mindset of just do it.
Yeah.
And they don't have the application as to why. And I'll give you a really good example. So about eight years or so ago, there's this 1080p program. I'm not sure it still exists, but it's like you're doing aerodynamics on NASCAR RC cars, right?
Right.
And so in high school, they build a chassis, they design it, and then they test how far it'll roll, right? So you're getting a lot of real world application, and they wanted me to teach them flow simulation.
Okay.
So I go and I spend a couple days and I'm teaching these high school kids flow simulation in SolidWorks. And at the end of it, this kid stands up and he's like, now I understand why I'm learning all the complex math. He goes, you just tied the two pieces together. But before that, he was in math class doing math. He was in doing RC cars on this side. There was no connection to the two. And I think if you look at schools and in general, that's their biggest problem. There's no overlapping of why am I going to use this? They're like, just do it.
Right.
So
that's such a great point, because I was one of those kids where I'm like, why the hell do I need to learn this complicated math? And there was no connection there. And then when I did so well testing in English, they were like, you're going to be an English teacher, or you're going to be a college professor. And I'm like, that doesn't sound exciting to me. Why would I want to do that? So that's such a great point. Have you offered any other kinds of suggestions for schools to make those connections in other areas?
You know, we try to connect industry with schools, right? And it's sometimes it's challenging, but I think the only way it works, like you mentioned, is it takes a village, right?
Right.
A lot of people get swept up in, I got this job to do, I work all these hours, and then we sit around and we complain that we can't find people, but we're not really doing anything to make our part of the world a better place.
Right.
You know, you can't expect a teacher to draw the comparison.
Right.
The teachers need help and support from people in the community that do it every day.
Yeah. That's another great point too. So there's a gentleman in Wisconsin named Matt Goosey, and he created this program called SOS, or Save Our Schools. So he was seeing a lack of like passion from the teachers, because like you mentioned before, they're really underappreciated. They're not getting paid what they deserve. They're getting assigned other tasks like bus duty. Like, what the hell kind of teacher wants to stand in line and wait for these cranky kids to get on the bus? I'm not saying all kids are cranky. I'm just going off my
But they got a lot of stuff going on, right?
They do. And so they don't really have time to invest in themselves to kind of upskill their current skill set to what we're seeing here at IMTS and what actual shops are doing on their shop floor. So he was able to connect with the leadership in his community, get some government funding, and now the teachers are getting an additional $5,000 added to their monthly salary. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow them to go to his manufacturing shop. He's going to teach them everything that he's doing with his CNC machines, and then those teachers are going to go back and teach the kids how to do that, which I think is fantastic.
Okay, so we just watched Manufacturing Live Education with Megan, but Chris, you wanted to ask a question to everyone before we start talking about this.
I did, actually. You know what? I was lucky enough to do my apprenticeship through the Tooling and Manufacturing Association in Des Plaines, Illinois, and it was sponsored by the Department of Labor. So, excuse me, it was really legit and honestly the best thing that I'd ever done in my life. I wanted to ask everybody out there, because I've been out of that sector for a long time, if you did an apprenticeship, where did you do it? Where did you do your apprenticeship? Where are people learning this stuff now? And if you could throw it in the chat, I mean, I would really, really like, and everybody would like to know what's out there and how people are learning these days.
I'd also like to know how many people started out with a different plan in life and ended up in manufacturing versus how many people got up and are like, I'm going to be manufacturing X person. I'd like to know a little bit about, how you all got to this journey. You and I can talk about that, a little bit here in a second, but I think when we talk about the idea for Manufacturing Live, and you and I chatted about this, you were on the original podcast that we had before we went to video, and then you were back again on our video piece. What do you think of Manufacturing Live? What do you think the vision should be? Because at the end, we're going to talk about what our future is with this monthly episode.
Yeah, right. So, it's for me, it's about community, right? It's about building a place where people can learn things, find out new things instead of having to go to Google everything. They say you don't know what you don't know. Manufacturing Live to me is a really great forum. I know everybody uses that word too much, right? Forum, but it really is a place for all of us machinists to come together and say, hey, you know what I saw in Manufacturing Live, and they really helped me out. And one thing I really do want to convey as we're talking about this, it's Manufacturing Live, and it's live for a reason, right? We talked about this, and we could have recorded this and been like, IMTS was great. We want it to be live because we love you guys. We really do. And this is the reason we do this. Like, the reason that I'm at Dassault right now is because I love you guys, man. So that's why it's live. We love to hear from you guys.
Yep. You guys may have heard the bear running through the back when, we were watching the last video. that's because it's live, right?
Sorry. Me.
Hey, we all have bear problems, so no big deal. So, one of the comments that just came in was schools should do field trips to manufacturing facilities instead of the zoo. I agree with that. The question that's going to come back is, okay, schools have a limited budget, so is that something companies should help with? One of the people that we interviewed last time earlier, Jeff, he actually got on the city council and helped navigate a bus route, and then they actually bus people in. Here in Lincoln at TMCO, another customer, they hold Friday classes for language. They work on busing and people in. So I love the idea of bringing kids to manufacturing, but it's also, how are the manufacturers going to help with that from a budget perspective, right? Because there are some people that want to grow up to be veterinarians. My other half happens to be one of them people, where, I'm the manufacturing guy. But the point here is like, those are all great ideas. The next step is, how do we execute on them, right? And I think that's part of where Manufacturing Live comes in, and where the education piece comes in, is we all have to do our part to it. So I'm going to ask you a question before we jump to the next one. We are going to go a little over an hour today because there's so much cool stuff to talk about at IMTS. How did you get into manufacturing, Chris?
Really quickly, when I was in 4th grade, we had a field trip actually to a place called Armstrong Tool and Die on Armstrong Avenue in Chicago, and they made wrenches, and they had these 2-story stamping dies that just hit these wrenches, and it was loud and it was hot, and it was horrible. And the teacher looked around and said, this is why you need to stay in school, because you do this. And I thought to myself, this is awesome. Like, this is what I want to do. Like, it's loud, it's dirty, it's big. Like, yeah, this is where I want to be. So from that point on, I really got into making things. And I was lucky enough, I answered an ad, after I got out of college, hey, apprenticeship available. And it's all downhill from there. I majored in mathematics, and I didn't like kids enough to teach. So I didn't know what I was going to do, and I fell into this. It was great.
Yeah, I can relate to that as having 2 little kids around my house right now. It goes in spurts where I love them to death, and then I just want it to be quiet. So I can respect that. So we're going to jump to the next video here, which is where we talk about Skills USA and FIRST Robotics. So let's play that one, and then we'll come back and we'll chat about this.
For those who don't know what Skills USA is, because I've been in this sector since 2008, and I recently just found out about that. Can you describe what that is and why you're partnering up with them?
Yeah, so we've been part of Skills USA for a long time, and really what it is it's broken down into sections, so I can talk about the section that we deal with.
Yeah.
So
Because they do like welding and CNC machining and all that other stuff.
Yep. So you have CNC machining, you have G-code control, you have CAD, you have design. One of the team members from SCC, or a group of them, did critical problem solving, and then I think there's an additive division now too.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah. So the team at SCC, they actually the team event was they had to build this lockbox.
Okay.
And so they designed it all in SolidWorks, and then they went through and they 3D printed it, but they had to learn about tolerancing and fixtures and everything else. And then when you get on site, you don't bring the pre-printed piece. You show up with the CAD design and the model. They put it in whatever printer they're going to do, and then you get graded on its quality. So they did like this locking mechanism thing where you had to put all the codes and the numbers in the right spot, and then it unlocked the box, and then inside of it, they give you a certain amount of change in this example to where it had to hold so much money. One of the other kids, he did detailed drafting. So they give you this product, and then you have to go through and make all the detailed drawings, and then you get graded on it. So it's really cool because it's applied, but it also gives you the ability to learn how to collaborate, how to work as a team, and it puts you a little bit under the pressure of what it's like in the real world. And it was interesting interviewing them because they learned a lot about how the real world is going to be, and they learned the things they want to do in the future, not just the things that they're told to do in class.
Yeah. I think those opportunities are real important because it's not just teaching, you know, all the hands-on skills, but all the soft skills as well too. Which reminds me of First Robotics. Is that something you're connected with as well?
Yeah, we help First Robotics. We do a lot with like Formula SAEs and the tractor pulling thing you see at the university level. So we try to help out on all of those things as much as humanly possible.
I think those are really great ideas for any manufacturer who's struggling with connecting with their community. Look into First, because you can do anything from just donating your product or funding something or even providing a mentor and coaching. And it's a blast. Those kids are amazing.
Yeah.
So
and they pick up technology at a rate that it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, I like working with young people because you see a light bulb go off and then they take it in a whole direction you're not even used to.
Right.
And it's amazing.
So we got a few feedback, Chris. We got some people that made some comments. We'll start with them first.
Okay.
Have you met Eric yet?
Have
you had
not.
A chance to meet him? So
No,
Eric is one of the cool dudes. You go into anything SolidWorks. I believe he was doing part of the Slug Me stuff not that long ago here. Was it last week? I think while we were on IMTS, they were doing that. So Eric, you know, he started in film school, then computer science, finally got his bachelor's of science in mechanical design, followed by a master's degree in manufacturing. So he works at this cool little company that makes water jets. But he is one of the OG influencers for SolidWorks, you know, him and Todd in that group. So if you ever get a chance, he's on your side of the country. You need to chat with Eric.
I would love to. Quite the overachiever, huh? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
See, that's our base, right? These are the people we talk to. It's not just the people that have masters, it's everybody.
Yes.
You know, and the people that are self-taught and the people that this is what I really enjoy about our communities.
Yeah. Well, and everybody has a different perspective, right? That's the fun part of getting together, which we'll talk about at the end here.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about Skills USA and First Robotics.
Please.
So I actually, this afternoon, I get to go hang with the school that did that at Milford.
So
we're having some meetings out there, and those students are they're just amazing to me. The thing that stands out about Skills USA and First Robotics is, first off, I'm like, where was that stuff when we were around? I don't remember that. I probably would have cared more about school if those types of things existed. But, you know, what's your impression of these groups and, you know, the things you've done along your journey that you know, sort of make Skills USA and First Robotics stand out?
Yeah. So, you know, these programs being nationwide, first of all, are amazing. You know, it's giving people access that live in what I call manufacturing deserts, right? These places where people want to learn manufacturing. They want CNC, fabrication, CMMQ, whatever it is, right? They want to, they're interested in it, but there's nowhere around to either learn it or get a job. Like, what do you do? skillsusa.org is a great starting place for that, right? There's membership resources. They have competitions, all kinds of programs and things. You can get involved by donating money or time. You know, whether you want to be a mentor or you're looking to learn a trade, and this isn't just CNC stuff, this is skills altogether. So if you you know someone, your kids, oh my gosh, teach your kids a trade. Send them to college. Hope they're lawyers. Awesome. That's great. And hopefully they will be. But teach them a trade. Because if that doesn't work out, this is where they're going to do. And it's amazing.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a lawyer that can build their own house.
You're not kidding.
Because if the lawyer thing doesn't work out, you can still build a house.
True.
And I think
construction law.
Yeah, I think that all or nothing approach that we have here is part of our downfall, if I'm being,
100%.
frank. Because I had that talk with a company the other day. They're like, well, it's either this or this. And it's like, it's not this or this. It is a mix of what's important today versus what's important tomorrow. And it's not a sales pitch, but like, we sort of lost the idea of building into something that gives you a foundation for life versus I just have to have X right now, and it has to be this way. Amazon is great, but Prime Day is probably going to be the downfall of our civilization because everybody waits to buy something on Prime Day, which means we now have created a path of I'm just going to wait until I can get X. Well, if X never comes, then you never have anything to build a wider foundation. And I think Skills USA and First Robotics and all of those programs lead into allowing people to be good at what they do while they're figuring out where they want to be in life.
Heck yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. And it's funny too, because I have a daughter who's in college. She's 19 and I love her to death, but to ask her to make a decision right now of what she's going to do for the rest of her life, it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, she's in college, she's studying, but she knows woodworking because I taught her woodworking. So hopefully she never has to use it, but if she does, great.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be good at the end of the day. You built something, you're holding it in your hand, no matter what that is. Like having something like that is just,
and you're talking to everybody in our audience knows that, man. Holding that part at the end of the day, oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's why we do it, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's, I think we got 2 more clips left. We're going to watch the next one. This is sort of the final thoughts of what Megan interviewed us on. And this sort of wraps up the first section. And then you and I'll talk about what we got coming in the future.
Sounds amazing.
For anyone who is tuning in, what would be your biggest ask for them?
1, get involved in your local community. We can't change the world without changing it at home.
Right.
The second thing is like, we need to be more open about how we discuss manufacturing because it's not dingy and dirty. It is high tech, it is cool, and it is a very good job that can last your lifetime. Like I fell backwards into this and it's been the best thing that's ever happened for me.
That seems to be like the #1 answer of how people got involved with this for, the majority of the answers. Oh, I did it by accident. I didn't know this existed.
So our final thoughts sort of sums up the things we've been leading towards, right? And Megan puts it way better than I could, which, it takes a village to do these things. And, we live in a weird world from, 20 years ago. And I don't want to sound like the get off my lawn guy, but, the social media traditionally started as a really good thing. And now it turns into this ball of just complaining, right? But the reality is away from the computer, away from watching this stuff, we still have to support our local communities, no matter what they are, right? And so I think a lot of times where we get wrapped up into all the negative things that happen virtually, we miss the fact that I could put in a little bit of effort locally and I would be a lot happier and have a bigger influence on the world than just being a keyboard warrior. So, I think over the years, and I want your input on this, but the companies that always stand out to me are the ones that find time to make their part of the world a better place, whatever that is. What have you seen over the years? Because you started out in the Midwest and now you're on the West Coast. Like you've been through a few different areas, a few different companies over the years. What are the things that stand out to you where you're always like, that company will always resonate with me because they're doing X?
Yeah, so I have two examples I just thought of. One is a smaller shop that, again, was very forward thinking, right? Let's make sure that the machines are maintained, they're up to date, all of our licenses are up to date, research on material, like they really had it down. And what they were doing is they weren't just solving, I've heard you say this a million times, they weren't solving today's problems, right? They were solving tomorrow's problems, right? This is what we've learned from this job. Let's move forward. Let's not do things always the same. That was one part. And by doing that, they encompassed a lot more of the community. They encompassed more shops, little shops, job shops, things like that, and it really helped. And I mean, the second one is a humongous company. I had the opportunity and actual pleasure to work for Hewlett Packard. I was working for HP in their additive department. And as far as a big corporation, their forward thinking is absolutely incredible. And to see that in a big corporation, to be socially responsible, economically responsible, even the environment. I mean, everything that they did was they had a mantra behind it and a thought behind it. It wasn't just let's make printers, let's print stuff and get out of here. It was like let's be better for everybody, and it was great.
Yeah, I was thinking back to some of the mentors I've had over the years, right? Because I've always tried to be around people that were smarter than me so I can learn.
Always.
Because I don't know everything. I mean, this morning I had to remember how to tie my shoes as an example. But I was thinking about, in 2002, 2003, around that time frame. I worked at this little shop in Omaha called Benson Machine Works. It started as like a blacksmith shop, been around forever. And you talk about some of the most skilled people I've ever been around as far as just the art of manufacturing. And I don't mean like the art, like, you go to a museum thing, like just they understood how material flowed. They understood how to take dents and warps out of steel. Like they were craftsmen.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were going from the craftsman stage into CNCs with Trump lasers and everything else. And we were incorporating the new and the old. But one of the things that made that place special and unique was, we'd be done at 4 every day. And then it was 3 or 4 hours every day during the week. There was always people that would just stop by and hang out. And it was like this group of people that just wanted to try new things. There wasn't really a limit to anything. And like, we did some crazy testing stuff on these Trump lasers, where it's like, I wonder if we could do this. I wonder if we could do that. And to me, that has left an impression on me for 20 years now, because you get in the right group of people where there isn't a limit, or as they say, there isn't no in your heart. Pulling out 90s movie references now. But the idea here is like, if you surround yourself with the right people and you have an influence of people that believe something can happen, it's amazing how the perspective changes from, oh, there's not enough of this, there's not enough of that, to let's make it happen. So,
positivity, man. Yeah. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And egos go down when you're in the make it happen group versus the doom and gloom group. So,
so let me ask just real quick, everybody out there, I mean, would you say your shop's more positive? Just throw it in the comments. Do you have a positive shop? Do you have a negative shop? Like, what do you think is the attitude of your shop? Because it needs to change if it's negative. I mean, I've worked in those too, and the old guys complain about things that happened 20 years ago and all this other stuff. And it's demoralizing for young guys that want to go out and learn. And like you said, I had a great mentor too that just took me under his wing, used the F word like a comma, and just taught me the absolute best way to machine things. Yeah.
That's me off the air. I grew up in that vein as well. So yeah, there's the, play on TV, clean words. And then there's the actual mic that happens off camera.
That's right.
I'm with you on that. I think that's a generational thing, if I'm being honest. But the other thing I guess I would ask to that too is, like, if it is a negative shop, is it because of lack of communication? Because people aren't on the same page. I'm curious if there's a correlation between successfully communicating with each other leads to more positive shops versus everybody just wants to keep their knowledge to themselves. So
yeah, that folklore, that could be a whole nother episode in itself, is the folklorish knowledge of machining and how to tap into that. I hate to give advice, I really do, but if I was to give advice to the younger machinists out there, you don't have to listen to the old guys complain. That's not your job description at all. Okay, know your job, have a plan of what you want to learn and where you want to be, and all the rest is noise. Be positive, be productive. That's it. And your career is going to be amazing.
And not all shops are the same. So if you have an internship, or you start out and it is a bad experience for you, don't give up. There are places that just suck. And then there are places that are good. And
they want you.
Yes, they want you. They want your ideas.
Yes.
So, if you do a summer internship and the owner is a complete jerk, don't quit on manufacturing because that person is a jerk. Keep going, keep pushing forward. There are lots of great people in the world in manufacturing.
Absolutely.
So while we wait for people to put in comments here, let's watch the last one, which is us talking about the future and 3D Experience World. So let's go ahead and play that, and then we'll be right back.
In terms of like things that you have coming up, what are you looking forward to, and what are some of the plans that you want to take on?
Yeah, so I mean, we have lots of trade shows, right? I mean, after this, we have FabTech coming up and some of those. But our big event that we're planning for, have been for a few months now, is 3D Experience World next February. I think 12th through the 15th.
I was so disappointed when that got canceled because I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was a little bummed about that too, because you spend a year planning, trying to have a good show, and then like right before, it's like, well, so you get come up with Plan B. So this time it'll be in Nashville. Everything looks good. Yeah, it'll be fun. We're actually going to have a 70 by 110 foot area dedicated, just for manufacturing, just for explaining to people how the world is going to work. We're going to have some CNC 101, we're going to have some robotics 101, and then we're going to be making some really cool parts. We're focused right now, we're going to make belt buckles because we're in Nashville, so we're going to machine.
What a great idea.
Yeah. We're going to work on engraving beer glasses on a DN mill turn.
Another great idea.
Yeah.
Are you going to have barbecue?
There might be barbecue. I can tell you that we're also working on a
country band.
Yeah, there might be. We have a pretty good Tuesday night event that we generally do every year. We are working on a bartending cobot for coffee.
Awesome.
Maybe some alcohol. We'll see. See how far we get.
I think that should just be a definite yes because you're in Nashville.
So I can tell you, a couple of years ago when we had it pre-COVID, we rented out one of the areas down on the main area, and we had like all the bars open just for SolidWorks and 3D Experience users. That was a lot of fun.
And is it a fairly new show? Like, what year would this be for you for 3D Experience World?
So before 3D Experience World, it was SolidWorks World. So
gotcha. Okay.
Gosh, are we 20 years now or something like that?
Oh, so it's not brand new at all.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's been a long time. Generally 5,000-6,000 people show up from all over the world, so it's a lot of fun because you get to interact with everybody doing everything, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Okay, last thing before we get to the future, we did get some comments. Chris, do you want to read one of the comments that came up there?
Yeah, sure. So someone typed in and said, hey, thanks. I learned a few things. I'm a 65-year-old contract engineer working in for 35 years, 12 different companies over 35 years as a contractor. I don't know if you did the math. That's actually pretty good, man. That's like 3 years per company, man. That's awesome.
Yep.
Vast knowledge engineering. And he said, thanks. He learned a lot. That's amazing. Yeah. And here, you want to read the next one, or you want me to?
This so I mean, Eric chimes in again, right? And you gotta share what Eric says. So
heck yeah, man.
He's giving a shout out to his R&D shop. At OMAX, they're the best group of folks to work with. I would agree with that. One of the first years of the shop floor at 3D Experience World, we had an OMAX in there. Great group of people. So keep them coming in. We're gonna jump to talking about the future and what we got coming up. Yes. So. I think one thing that we should probably talk about, I don't think we talk about it very often, is 3D Experience World. We in the manufacturing side, we start the day after the last one ends to start planning for the next year. And so we've been now planning since March for what we're going to do this next year. We gave a little bit of the teaser on there, but in your words, Chris, give a little bit of an overview of some of the cool things that are going to be coming up that we're trying to do for everyone to help with the education piece.
In SolidWorks World or in general?
Yeah. In 3D Experience World with the manufacturing floor, with the cobots and
it's going to be
101.
Yeah, if you guys haven't been there, what we do on the manufacturing side is we actually make like our own little area for manufacturing that really shows off the manufacturing part of the 3D Experience Works. I'm sure there's engineers on the line and machinists. I don't want to exclude anybody, but if you guys are into manufacturing, I know you're going to be in the SolidWorks because you're coming to SolidWorks World. But if you're into manufacturing, spend some time in there, man. We love to talk manufacturing. There's myself. I'm going to be there. Mike's going to be there. A guy named Craig Sirkanik's going to be there. I think we're going to have somebody from the UK. All of us run machines currently. Mike has a machine. I have a machine. So we love manufacturing. we build this thing to help spread the word. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and the focus for it has always been, and I think this is year 5, or it must be 5 now. It's hard to keep track after 2, right? So this year 5, our focus has always been education first. So we're trying to showcase a process, demystify what it takes, and allow anyone to come up and ask questions. It's not a matter of, oh, look at me, we did something shiny and cool. It's a matter of, these are the steps you would go through. So we welcome people to come up, ask the questions. What we're working on this year is we're doing a 101 for cobots, like getting people introduced to what is a cobot, what is a robot, how do the components fit together, what do you need to automate? You know, whether you're an engineer or whether a manufacturing person, we don't care. We need to have a more open discussion about this, and that's really what the shop floor area of 3D Experience World is going to be. You know, I think the other thing we have coming up too, obviously, again, this Thursday we have SolidWorks Live, right? And we have Friday, we have live design. So those are getting in a little bit more into, you know, discussions, additive components like that. We're trying to broaden the spectrum to allow people to get into manufacturing at whatever level you're comfortable with. You know, the big thing that we have coming up, and I think when we talk about a little bit under the hood here, is, you know, we work with partners like DN Solutions and like Doosan Cobots and Tormach. We work with all of them. We come up with these projects. We come up with ideas. Everyone gets to participate. And then here at the end of the year, we actually go out and we spend a week ourselves setting up machines, putting in our fixtures and vices, running them on brand new machines. So we're learning the new controls and the new options at the same rate that we're testing them for the show. So, you know, it's a pretty exciting time. We have a lot of fun with it, but I did want to, I always felt like when our event comes up every February, right? It's sort of like, oh, well, this is just the showcase. And we never really talk about the fact that we spend a year planning it, right? And we go through trying to, you know, elevate the next step. So if you have ideas or things you want to see in the future, you know, dump these into these comments. We go through, we read them, we follow up. We actually care and want to make it better. Obviously, giving everyone a free machine is out of it, so please don't put that in the comments. We have no ability to do that. But you know, when we look at that, it also leads to my next topic, and this is the topic I think me personally I'm really excited about, is manufacturing live going forward. So Chris mentioned a few people, Craig Serkanik, we have Chris MacBain, we added David McBriar in the UK to our team. We have John. You guys met John at the Titan Trifecta Manufacturing Live. And so going forward, we're going to start rotating Manufacturing Live to where each of them gets to be a host, because just like you and how we communicate in the real world, we all have different experiences. We all have different contacts. We all have different things that are important to us. So coming up, you're going to start seeing Manufacturing Live rotate between all of the manufacturing people we have and have different people hosting. I can't wait to listen in to what Chris and Craig and David and John are going to talk about. But please stay tuned, put comments in. If you want us to interview you, please put them in there. And I think the last thing, because we have to pay the bills, if you like the content, definitely subscribe, you know, hit like, give us feedback. But Chris, I'll let you with the final thoughts because I have rambled way too long. So go ahead, my friend.
You got it. You know, moving forward in manufacturing, I'm excited that everybody on this call, everybody is, you know, really into moving forward into the technology age of Industry 4.0. I personally would love to include the community. Put in there if you want to be interviewed. Put in there if we miss something. We're really here for you guys. Yeah, Mike and I talk all the time. This isn't about us. So please, whatever you guys want to hear about or want to be educated about, please bring it in there. And I'd like to add one thing too about SolidWorks World. Those of you that haven't been, it's not just presentations, right? There's breakout sessions. I think there's over 500 breakout sessions of classes teaching different parts of every part of Dassault's offerings. I shouldn't say every part of Dassault's offerings. Sorry, the 3D Experience platform, SolidWorks, things like that. So if you haven't been, that's a good place.
And partners.
And partners. That's right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Plus, you know, it's fun to get together. Tuesday nights, we usually throw some pretty good events. It's worth showing up for that. The general sessions are amazing. We're going to have some really cool people this year again. So, you know, it's been a few years. We haven't been together. So let's figure out how we can all make it there and come talk manufacturing. I mean, all the rest of the stuff everybody's used to. Let's you know, expand out the manufacturing side and do some really fun, cool making. So with that, you got any other comments, Chris? If
No,
not, we're
I'm good.
Little over. Ian, our person that puts all this together, we can't thank Ian enough, but I think he's tired of listening to us talk, Chris. So we should probably let him go to do his actual day job.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. We're done.